screen come up?
And we are recording.
The big,
Oh.
the big screen.
How do we do that part?
Yeah, I'm not.
You have to use that other. Sure. Oh. Oh, I mean, there's another object behind that computer. Is that the one?
You guys come, you come in that door? I had a bus to let us in.
And they let you in?
Well, who is this? And I said, you know, David Willingham? Yeah, I said, I'm a friend of his. Okay, come on. Yeah, I did not say, come on in. I know better than
They
that.
said, they said visiting hours, afternoon.
I was right behind him. I just went like this.
There, look at that. And
Is somebody joining? She's supposed to. Will that be it? It should tell you if somebody was online. She's not online at this time. Do anything different. Good. Okay. All right, we'll try this. She's apparently hasn't joined yet, so. Yeah, you're going. 1:34. Mhm.
is Chris on?
Mm-mm.
Hmm?
No,
She isn't?
it's not.
I did send her, she asked yesterday and I sent her. I believe we do still have a quorum.
Since we do at 4. Yeah, I just checked.
Actually, with the vacancy. But anyway, I call the meeting to order. And we do not have any guests. No one else on the call. So public comment is over with. On to the approval of the minutes, February the 7th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Moore or Mr.
Hoover?
Mr. Hoover and Mr. Ravens. The motion passes. With the exit of Mr. Here she comes. Mr. Jacobs, we have a vacant vice chairman position. And so we need to elect a new vice chair. Nominations are open for vice chair.
You're supposed to take over where he left off.
I don't even know.
Well, the best way to learn is dig right in.
Else not here?
What's that? No, Harold had a family emergency. Had to go to Milwaukee. Is there a nomination for vice chair? They wants the job and nobody wants the job of
Nominating.
nominating somebody who doesn't want the job.
Who's our vice chair now?
Jeremy, that's why we're electing one.
We elected him in his absence.
At all time.
We elected him and he quit. So that's the requirement for the meeting? Yeah, we do.
Would nominate.
No.
No. That doesn't happen often, Pete.
Good, I like that one.
Mr. Boss has been nominated. Are there other nominations? Anybody else? If not, and if there is no objection, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor? Us as our new vice. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no.
Thank
It's carried.
I got you, Pete.
you.
I'm going to be absent for the next 6 months. So.
Thanks a lot.
You have to second a nomination.
What's that?
You have to second a nomination.
No.
You nominated, but there was
No second.
no second. Okay.
Okay, I had as you know, one of the county appointees had a scheduling conflict with our meetings. And so she elected to resign from the board. And I had a conversation with the board chair this week. Kind of gave him some history about the time when one of the county's 3 county officials appointees was Mr. Jacobs. And then at a later date, the county filled the 3 positions with the county board members. And so the commission did appoint Jeremy as a ex officio member of the committee. So because there is a vacancy, I did talk to Mr. Undershoots, and he was amenable to appointing Ashley as the 3rd county appointee. So that will probably be coming up the next county board meeting. He was going to make sure that it didn't have to go through the committee on committees when there's just a single appointment that comes up. They don't usually have the committee on committees meeting. The chair puts it on the agenda, and the board could either concur or nominate somebody from the floor, so to speak. So that's where that's at. So I would expect that to happen. He was going to make sure that he didn't have to take it through committees. So, but they just had a meeting last week, and obviously it didn't show up on their chart that there was a vacancy, so they did. That's where that's at. So if there aren't any questions or comments about that, I did tell him that in the event that for whatever reason that wasn't acceptable or that he wanted to do something different, that we would then continue the practice of having an ex officio member.
Suck whether you like it or not.
Okay.
You get a 10% cut on your per diem. So anyway, moving on to the finance committee report.
That's my job, apparently. The report, it should be involved with the discussion on the WISDOT audit resolution and the finance program reports and the bus application down below. So I'll talk about that. We did have a little discussion with accrual accounting, and I was
Favorite topic.
of my favorite topic too. I did hand a specific document to our staff, Tammy, this morning, outlining the fact that the audit specifically says we are an accrual accounting organization. So I think we will not have too much pushback from now on about accrual accounting. And I hope that we don't talk about it again. But our reports are going to start looking more like an accrual accounting. Okay. That is about the extent of that portion of the meeting that had any significance. We did talk about these other items, but I'll talk about them when we get to the specific issue.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? So we'll move on then to finance.
In your packet, where I think probably we should just make a quick note, is the form that looks like this. This is last year complete. I did highlight a few items in yellow for you. Those, the very top one, the administrative fee revenue, it's a new code. We were directed by the DOT to remove our administrative fee, trip fee from the passenger revenue line. So it moved out of the passenger revenue line, came into the administrative fee revenue line. The amounts didn't change, it just shifted the coding on that. Then you will see the transfer from other funds, and on the last page, the transfer out to other funds. And that is the money that technically was positive revenue from the DE volunteer driver program moving into the transit program. And this is done at the end of every year. Normally, those funds move to the trust fund. The DOT has told us that that money should not be moving to the trust fund. It should be moving in fund balance. So that is what you see moved there. Other than that, this should be solid unless the auditors find something that they want changed at.
So the $100,000 is, that's what you ended the year at?
Positive revenue in the volunteer driver side. Correct. Two sections. We have the volunteer driver side and the transit.
Right, and so this is listed under, oh, I see, under driver escort, and, okay.
Out of the one side into the other side for DOT and there's any questions on that? So going back to finance one, so this is where we are at the end of February as far as our current costs and expenses. On that.
You saw it in scrap.
I looked at it yesterday a little bit. I just didn't print it.
And then, of course, finance two is your balance sheet. If there's any questions on that? Finance three, I think we had a couple of questions on this. Maybe simply because the way that we have this separated on here was a little bit confusing for him as far as what it was coded to get to the actual general ledger. I think we cleared that all up. And this is where we sit right now. So once we get everything clear, you'll see us drop off last year's information. Right now, I'm showing you all of last year's information, and we haven't gotten on to much this year as far as the 5311 section. The bottom part, I think that's also covered later in the meeting. So do you want to wait on that, or do you want to go over that at this point? On the agenda, right?
It's not specifically on the agenda, but I was thinking of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Want to go on? If there's any questions for me, then.
My question that she talked about was the fact that on this report, we have 189,000. And it's very difficult to try to find 189,000. It should be someplace on
It's on
the.
the, as money moved from other,
Yeah,
that's where it's at.
$347,000. I think that. I'm going
Part
to,
of that.
I'm going to break this out a little bit more, the balance sheet and bring, this is what the auditors give us in the audit. I thought it, for our purposes, it would be a lot better if we knew what the RTC food checking was, what the account receivable was at $300,000, 347,000. What is it? Where does it come from?
A good amount of that is the money that you're seeing in the.
Right, I know that.
In the what?
The money that is in the, being held at the county is down here. the majority of that is the due from other funds on your balance.
Right. So I thought, for our purposes, it'd be a lot nicer to know what makes up those figures in a broad sense. So I'm gonna talk to Tanya and try to get a little more detail on the balance sheets, because it's for our purposes, not for any financial institution or for an account, for any accounting, but for our purposes. So it'd be nice to.
Do we need to make some sort of? I think we have the option of not holding the reserve fund at the county. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I don't know whether we need to make a decision that we're going to do that or not going to do that, or whether we just leave it the way it is.
I think that based upon the experience we've had with the current, trying to transfer funds out of it, that it might be a very, very good idea
Get it out.
to move it out, because, we're gonna talk about it. And yeah, if you want to talk about it now, because we spent over a year trying to solve the issue of how much money we owe on back years. In fact, that original invoice for $45,000 is over a year old, and with multiple meetings with the DOT. And we finally get them to agree with us to allow us to put 4 years together, which has a positive amount in it and 3 negative amounts. So, and now we're told we're not going to issue a check until someone else takes a look at it, and we have no clue how long that's going to take. So I think it's, if that thought process that, if we can't meet our commitments that we make with people we're dealing with, then it's pretty darn tough for us to do our job. Very simple. You know what we're talking about.
Once the audit is done, how much time do you have to reimburse the DOT?
How much, once it's done?
Yeah.
Usually, they've billed us several times during the course of the year for that 45. They wanted to settle that one particular year. And we wanted to put the 4 together. So,
And they agreed to that.
they finally agreed to that, and
actually-
meetings with them.
Sort of agreed to the interpretation that once that pullback, if you want to call it that, is classified as a 10% holdback,
Operating.
that it isn't confined to the year that it was generated. So it just becomes a part of a fund.
Okay.
And therefore, there's no reason why, even if we didn't have $17,000 from those
Right.
4 years, we can still pull back from subsequent years, because it's all in that fund. We don't have to account for it on the basis of the year that it was earned, so to speak. So because of the transition in the finance office in the county, where the finance director position is vacant, and the county is contracting with Baker Tilly as a contract accounting service. It needs to be cleared by them, because they're in a sense acting as the county's finance director. And I don't know if that's a big top priority with them, because they got a lot of other county stuff to do. So that's where that's at. And maybe, I don't know if there's any way to encourage them to move on that or not.
So I don't know if you received updates, but we did receive some communication from Baker Tilly this week, asking for documentation from the DOT that they actually said that
Yeah.
those funds are not year specific and stuff. So Cheryl had an email out to them.
It was already done.
She's already asked them for that. They did reply this morning. Anyway, one of my emails has it. Anyway, the DOT said that they literally took some clips from their rules and said that according to them, it is not year specific. They don't think that there needs to be another communication directly with Baker Tilly based on what they sent. Baker Tilly still requires something, they'll send more, but based on what they sent this morning, they are hoping that Baker Tilly will be satisfied. So we'll have to see Baker Tilly's response.
Baker agrees, but Tilly doesn't.
I don't know. DOT agrees. DOT agrees. Baker Tilly is, I suppose, just making sure that they understand the situation. But yeah, it is taking a lot longer because of the situation that we're in.
Okay. Moving on then. Is there anything else you want to draw our attention to?
I said, it's kind of what you guys are going to be discussing later. So if there's anything else you have questions for me at that point, I guess I'll answer whatever you have. Or if I can.
So it should be,
Best of my ability.
it probably should be noted and appreciated that we are significantly more timely recently when receiving our federal or state payments. So all of 2024 has been paid. There's been years when we were in March and April and we hadn't gotten the fourth quarter of 24 reimbursement. So that's helping with the cash flow. We haven't had to dip into the advance for a while. So that's good. That's good. If there is no further conversation or questions on the finance report, is there a motion to accept the finance report?
Oh,
I have a motion and a second to accept the finance report. If there's no further comment or question, all those in favor of the motion signify by aye. Anyone opposed, say no. It's carried. And Chris, hear us? Okay?
I don't think she ever joined because
She hasn't joined?
there's no,
I know she
was planning to join, but
she's involved. Maybe she gave up while we were, in the early part, but but anyway, I know she's involved in a lot of transportation with her husband. Okay. So do we need to talk any more about the reconciliation or resolution with DOT?
I don't think so.
And we haven't gotten any further communication from them in regard to the status of the current audits that they have said they were working on.
oh, like 2019, we have not gotten anything as far as if they've started 2019, we have no
They've
communication.
started,
So they have 2015 through 2018. That's what we're trying to settle.
okay,
So 2019 would be the next one that they should be working on. And as far as they haven't said that they're working on, we haven't heard anything. There's no communication as to other than, or not they've started that or where they're at, or,
maybe they
communications.
doge when you need them. Okay, trust fund transfer status, that's also been discussed. Unless there's some further, I don't know that we would want to make a decision today on a depository for our reserve fund. I think before we would do that, and Pete, you probably would agree, I hope, that we would need to establish some financial policies and procedures manual, additions in, as to how that fund is supposed to be maintained.
The actual trust fund that needs to be held at the county. We are, within the next year, should be down to 0. So it would just be your reserve funds. So the trust fund and the reserve fund,
The
Different
trust fund
things.
for purchases.
trust fund is you buy the next couple of vehicles should be emptied out, because now, like I said, when we move that 100,000 at the end of the year, that normally would have gone to the trust fund and then you would have that. Now it's actually in your fund balance for use.
You could take it out of the fund balance to purchase a vehicle if you wanted to.
That's, yeah,
Yeah, we can use
exactly. You guys
Use it.
have
But-
that discretion, and if you want that to be separated in some way, that's on you. That's your choice and decision on how you want to handle that going forward.
The trust fund is,
We just don't want staff to spend it.
the trust fund's specific purpose is that it gives us the ability to retain the driver escort program excess revenues and not have to, give them away. So, and then we're allowed to use the trust fund for certain other purposes, including capital improvements and capital purchases, which are vehicles. And I believe even theoretically, if we were to build a building with a capital grant, which would also require a match, we could use that for that as well. But, so the rules of the trust fund are established by the DOT. But the reserve fund, how we use that, and what authority we grant to management to approve the spending of that dollars needs to be, we need to create those policies in the policy manual before we transfer the money out. So we should be working on that. Maybe, I don't know if there's a model,
Well, there's also limitations on the investment side of it. So statutory limitations on the investment of government funds.
yes. Including some sort of statement on what our risk, how much we are willing to risk.
Tolerances, yes.
Stock market looks a little risky. We'll get there, so we will, I think, let's see. We need to probably have a placeholder item on the future agendas for the reserve fund, just to make sure that when something happens, we'll know that that's on our agenda to make decisions about when to do that. And if you get any advice from anywhere about what policies and procedures need to go into the manual for that. 2024 program financial report.
But she was giving you with like the AFR information. It's probably going to talk about this more of this is how you actually do your financial report at the end of the year, the trust fund. This is the vehicles that were purchased in 2024 and money that moved through the trust fund to pay for the percentage of match and for the upgrades in equipment that they put on them. So that's what you see on this yellow and green form. And this, is this a separate bullet point? Okay. The fine for the other vehicle?
That's a
Different
different,
bullet point? Okay, I'll leave that.
So the current status as of now of the trust fund is 40,000.
Yes, So that's, once the money is moved, the vehicle money is moved. Because the DOT doesn't recognize the vehicle money that's sitting in there right now, so.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing that came up at the finance committee meeting is that in the past, we have, when we sold vehicles and we were allowed to keep the proceeds of the sale, and there's some DOT rules about that, we assumed that we had to put that money into the trust fund, and we don't.
They don't want it in the trust.
No, they don't want, right.
It becomes disposable into our reserve fund again.
You're operating it.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's money coming back using something you already purchased.
Doesn't mean that we can't use it.
It's not, you could still put it into a separate fund if you want to, or you know, that's totally, we do have a code for it now. I don't think it would have reported on there, but we did create a code in our GL that'll say, you know, from vehicle sales. So once that money actually comes out, that's the code will show up on, but it hasn't been moved yet, so it's not coded there yet. But we did create a separate code that you'll be able to see in your report once that happens.
So in addition to all of that, Cheryl did put together a inventory, so to speak, of our fleet vehicles, giving us an idea of what their status is, mileage and their other relevant information about how we got them, which ones are subject to being in the DOT's inventory. So that would have something to do with how we dispose of them. As
Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about that disposal process of the vehicles that are non-DOT? I understand there's some DOT instructions on how you can get rid of it, but shouldn't the non-DOT ones, we can do whatever we feel like doing?
You don't have, if it's all discretionary funding that went into purchasing and operating, then yeah, you can.
Whatever you want.
Yeah,
That's advantage to that?
no, you would typically end up following your same process.
Right. I got the impression that there was a disadvantage to it. In discussion.
Same way,
Yeah.
most of federal funds are, you know, if you sold something that's more than 5,000, then you have to have approval to dispose of it. But if it's your own vehicle, then.
Right. You could do,
it's
that's
disposed.
what I thought, but I just got the impression that there were some ramifications that were worse than doing with this. That cleared that up for me. Thank you.
they don't tie them up quite like they used to. I remember back in the day, the highway department had vehicles that they would get, you know, through the highway funds. And then when they replaced them, they became the property of the county. So this truck went from the highway shop out to the fairgrounds. It was used as a maintenance vehicle out there by the HHS people that were working the jail inmate program out of. Well, then when the fairgrounds got tired of the vehicle, they didn't know what to do with it, so they gave it to Westlake. And we burned a few miles on it, and it was absolutely worthless.
Scrap for it.
But we couldn't get rid of it. We couldn't sell it. We couldn't, trade it in. We couldn't junk it. I mean, literally, because we had to have permission from this government surplus, whatever. So I finally got into a conversation with this guy in Madison, and he said, well, I said, because they couldn't find a registration for it even. And he said, well, that's all went to the archives. And I said, well, that means that you don't really care. So if I
You can go down there and dig it.
If I come into the office on Monday morning and it's not in the parking lot anymore, I don't need to tell you and you don't, that's right. So there was a guy that wanted to buy it for parts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna leave the key in over the weekend and
We're not
if
reporting.
it's gone on Monday morning, I don't care. Yeah. He came and got it and then he made a honest donation. Oh, well. Confession time. Okay, so we probably just down to the financial audit status then, right?
So, we work with Clifton Larson, Allen, out of Rice Lake. Right now, the last, week and a half, I've been doing a lot of pulling reports and uploading them into their website. We have not had any, feedback from them at this point. Everything is just being uploaded. I think I have 3 more reports to upload prior to them coming, and then we'll see how it goes, I guess.
When are they here doing your field audit?
I think it must be the 20th or something, because when all the stuff I upload, there's
That's a Sunday, so the 21st.
the 22nd. I'm trying to remember what it says on it. I've been looking at reports so much that, yeah, so I guess I haven't actually spoken with them. I'm sure Cheryl has as to that part. I think there's, on there's like a date of 20th or 20, maybe it's the 22nd. So I'm assuming that must be the day they're going to be on site. Like I said, that's more in Cheryl's. I just.
Looks like they're really making an effort to get early start on.
Yeah, there was only like 3 items that had to be uploaded by the 10th. The rest of it had to be uploaded by the 20th or 22nd, but I think we only have I think there was 19 or 20 items on there. We are down to like 3. So I think we're sitting pretty good, unless they start giving me feedback that it's not what they want. Being my first time, I'm digging pretty hard to find what they want. So I hope that I'm getting them everything that they need.
Well, I know other organizations that I'm affiliated with have, are getting their audits in October last year. And that's, if your audit's going to be helpful for what you're doing, you don't want to get it at, 5 minutes before the end of the year. Year-to-date financial report was in the.
Yep, that would have been what,
We've already.
Finance 1, I think
Yeah,
it's your
yeah.
year to date. Ending, I ended it at the end of February, so February 28th.
So we are down to the transit director's report. I'm going to be able to go through most of that for us.
Well, like you've already kind of touched on, she gave you a copy of let me see, I just piled it. This is an application that she did because there's a bus available for transfer. That does not mean that you are going to get it. Everybody is allowed to apply for it.
Mhm.
The application was made, but we have not heard any type of yes or no at this point. So that you guys have in your packet the application. And then the fleet review inventory you already touched on. So that was this one.
The point that I would like to make about the application for this bus is that it has not been approved by finance or by this board. Serious questions about buying a bus that's got the same mileage we have.
200,000. Oh,
200,000, both of them.
No.
15.
This vehicle only has 15,000 miles on it. It's at the top.
All right.
Yep. The one that they would be replacing, so they have to tell them what vehicle they would replace. So the one you see for 200,000 is the one we would be replacing. So same sheet of paper, but at the top is the one we're applying for. At the bottom would be the one that would be.
Yeah, I'm sure that helps them make a, decision to where the priority might lay.
I
So,
think Cheryl said that you guys did get one at one point. you know. I know that there was a different one that they applied for since I started and they didn't get it, so. I think they got more, that's when they be way down the list, if ever getting one again, I don't know.
So then maybe we need to, going forward, have a policy for, the board to approve making these bids or,
I think being that it's just an application, you guys can still decide against it. Even if you were chosen, you still have the right to say no.
not
at
that we would,
point.
it's
But
just,
it's a very limited time from the day they put out that it's available till you have to have the application in. So she just does it as an option. You can always say no. You're not locked in because you applied. So.
yeah, and she did send me a note saying that she had applied for it. So, but I think it's on our agenda. I would ask for a motion to approve the application.
I'd approve the application.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Not? Questions on the motion to approve the application for a vehicle available transfer? Favor signify by saying aye.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Does that, approving the application, does that imply that you are authorizing the purchase of it?
No. You just,
No, I think once we get if they get the award, then I think we would have to approve the appropriation from the trust fund to support it, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what
But I think it's got,
Tanya's saying, that, or Tammy's saying that once that comes up, and that's when we decide whether we can afford to do it. So that's when,
come out of someplace other stuff.
yeah, right. Yeah, it doesn't have to. Okay, and moving along. 2025 compliance audit. I think we had
I wasn't involved in that. That was,
I came in and Cheryl and I did a Zoomerino call with the third-party organization that DOT contracts with to do the compliance audits. It's a very thorough review. It took quite a while to go through it, line by line. It dealt with, I think, he emailed copies of it.
Yes, you did.
And it dealt with both suggestions for change and improvement that had been made in the previous compliance audit and whatever progress had been made on those recommendations and improvements, as well as addressing some new ones. And I think as far as addressing the prior ones, I think we came out very well. They were positive about a number of initiatives that we had taken and even said some nice things about a couple of things that we were doing that they hadn't recommended that we do. So, but I think what we want to do is maybe have Cheryl develop a list of those new recommendations or areas. And maybe we could, either the policy committee could meet or the full board could meet and maybe prioritize those as to which ones we would like to see addressed first and then go forward. But I don't believe this is a yearly compliant.
it was it.
I thought it was 3 years, but I'm not sure. It could be 3 or 5, but.
I wasn't involved, but I know she mentioned it to me. I'm trying to remember.
So it required a
It wasn't
lot of
years.
a lot of documentation put together to support it. And I've been involved with a few of those kinds of third-party compliance audits. And they frequently have no idea what the organization that they're auditing does. It just, I mean, these are people that are kind of in the business. I think we maybe had an experience with another organization where that, you know, where somebody came into as a consulting firm and had no clue what the organization did, and it was really almost negative what they were doing. So anyway, but these people seem to have they must do a lot of transit audits because they were very knowledgeable about what we do, so. And they seem to have a handle on rural transit, because a lot of times these people come in and they're talking about Philadelphia and Chicago, and they don't understand rural transportation at all. So I'll talk to Cheryl about putting together a kind of a going forward progress sheet for the compliance. Cheryl did put an item on the agenda about virtual meetings policy. The county's policy currently is that under certain circumstances, members can participate in committees and board meetings virtually, with some exceptions, including closed session are not permitted. So I think we don't have any problem with members attending virtually. However, the county's policy for county board and county committees is that members may participate virtually, but they may not be reimbursed for the meeting allowances. So we might need to work on that a little bit and see if we're not quite the same as county committees, and whether we have some leeway as to whether we have the right to authorize. What's that?
We always have it.
Yeah, well, we'll claim we do it, right? But I just think that under certain circumstances, when someone's not here because of caring for a family member, that a little bit more leeway should be there. I don't know if there's any further issues on the agenda. I think we're just submitting our agendas to the county
Right.
and they post them.
They're posting them on the
In the bulletin board
bulletin
here.
board as you come in the main side entrance. I and Jill have agreed. Carol sends that over, they'll on the board, and so it will be posted.
Okay, the next issue.
Hmm?
That's the next one on the agenda. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think there were actually some questions as to whether we are required to do it, but I believe we should do it, whether we're required to do it or not. F report.
That's pretty much exactly what she has written there. So she's just telling you. So we've had a couple people leave and she's in the middle of trying to hire replacements. So she has it detailed very well for you there.
Yeah, I just noted that I think one of the drivers was retiring because of, and I think I know who it is because he was transporting my wife on the bus and mentioned that I was commiserating with him about how much fun it is for people of advanced years to crawl around on the floor to buckle those hold downs on wheelchair. And he said that was is having back problems and he was going to have to quit because of that. So that's, our market for drivers
Yeah.
is incompatible
Really good
with,
drivers.
I wish there was a way that they could fasten those you know,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to crawl around, but it'd be nice if just something comes up. And
Grabs. Yep.
my wife was commenting, because you get it, it's optional whether you want to wear the seatbelt or not.
Apparently they have to allow, if they know.
But my wife says, well, you know, if we hit something, she says, this wheelchair is gonna be right where it is, but I'm going to be sitting in the driver's lap.
Correct. Yeah, and they've had, there's been quite a bit of movement on the whole restraint system. So if you talk to Cheryl about restraints, you'll get it, you'll hear.
Yeah.
Everything that's been going on. So, yeah, that's a big thing.
So I did
Training system.
have a couple of back and forth notes from Cheryl, keeping me appraised of what was going on with the faulty,
Restraints.
you know, the new vans do not have lifts on them, which is really nice. They're built fairly low. They have a nice ramp. And in most cases, you can just roll somebody right up that ramp and you know, don't have to worry about all the logistics of the lifts working and everything. But they also were equipped with a winch arrangement that you could attach to the wheelchair, and it would assist the staff in moving that vehicle up the ramp. But it was like, you know, herky jerky, and you know, the drivers were like, whoa, we don't want to use this thing. So apparently there was a flaw in the installation. And so after some back and forth, some guy flew in from Cheyenne, Wyoming or someplace and looked at them and determined
There was a team that flew in.
they were not installed properly, and he replaced them.
Hey, you have to ask Cheryl the details. Again, I'm not involved in that end, but I know that there was a team came in and then they sent more material, and then I think they followed the material and then worked with our garage
Yep.
manager to get the install rearranged and fixed. So
And then I believe
I haven't heard more about it after that, so.
that the
The last-
manufacturer is agreed to reimburse the cost of that.
And again, I haven't heard that.
That was my understanding.
That's not in.
I think the
For sure.
last note that I got was that, you know, she was sending an invoice to them for
Okay,
that. So,
yeah, I'm not involved on that part, so.
Safety report. Full staff tornado drill on April the 10th. Grant applications, the capital grant. We haven't applied for a capital grant to purchase a shop truck. I think we discussed this at finance a little bit recently, and it's unfortunate you can't, you know, this is a low usage vehicle. We'll have a plow on it to plow the snow at the, you know, facility, and some back and forth to, you know, uptown to get parts for the vehicles when the mechanic's working on things. It just really doesn't make sense to buy a new vehicle for that purpose and spend that much money, but you're not allowed to buy a used vehicle for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that just dumbfounded me that somebody would come up with a policy like that. Because obviously,
DOT policy?
yeah, a 5 or 6 year old, you know, Ford or Chevy, you know, 3/4 ton truck
Yeah, the city does that all the time.
will,
$10,000, they'll get something.
yeah, will rust to death before you get 100,000 miles on it. But that was her policies.
We could have bought it outright. Of going through grant application. I think that truck is about, what, 60,000 or something like that?
Yeah.
God,
We might have been able to buy one with the amount of match that we had to put up, yeah.
Yeah.
So, in record time, We'll have to note that the board moves very quickly when Cheryl is. Here she knows we said that. And I say that without being nervous about that because that is said about me, and just about every organization. The meetings go a lot faster when Dave's there. So Friday, June the 6th will be the next meeting of the Transit Commission with the Finance Committee meeting on May the 30th. Does anyone wish to make a closing statement?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. And opposed, say no. And it's carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
I'm gonna use this.